You didn't think part 17 was the
attack the exam like
Hello, sir.
yeah, hello.
Please, I think we can start.
Okay. So we are going to discuss about community pharmacy practice. During your training in one or two, I don't know,
Hello,
maybe
sir.
vacations, you were asked to go and do some community
Please,
pharmacy
I think we can
attachments.
start.
And as part of the GPQE, we are going to discuss at times they set questions on community pharmacy practice and specifically the standard operating procedures that are supposed to be involved. Hence, this discussion. We will take the opportunity to briefly discuss on the Ghana National Drug Policy and briefly on Sustainable Development Goals. You know these already. It used to be Millennium Development Goals 8, and now it has been changed to 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The most important among the 17 when it comes to healthcare practitioners will definitely be the sustainable goal number 3, which is health for all. So take it as a very important one because we've seen past questions on community pharmacy practice and SOP. So when we say community pharmacy, what is it? What do we mean by community pharmacy? So this is all about a retail pharmacy practice. It's not a wholesale pharmacy practice. By now, you know the difference between wholesale pharmacy,
Hello, sir.
retail pharmacy. Yeah, hello.
I don't know if it's just my side, but the slides are not showing.
Okay. Let me go back. Can you please see my screen now?
Yes, please.
Okay. When we talk about community pharmacy practice, as you know, the interpretations of or the difference between the various types of pharmacies, wholesale pharmacy, retail pharmacy, and the others. Community pharmacy is basically a retail pharmacy practice. So if you practice a retail pharmacy within the community setting, that is what we are talking about. So everything about community pharmacy is a retail type of pharmacy services based within the community. It stands on two main things. A retail pharmacy. Number one, it is a healthcare delivery entity. So it's a center for healthcare. And number two, it is also a business entity. So you should be able to marry the two. Try and then balance the two, the business aspect and the healthcare delivery aspect. Since it's a healthcare delivery entity, and of course, the retail pharmacy within the community, that is community pharmacy practice, demands that you have professionals who have experts when it comes to pharmacy practice. You should have these professionals. And of course, if you have these professionals, then they will be given this essential service called healthcare delivery in terms of pharmaceutical services. And of course, as always, by law, you should have a premises that you are going to practice in. Remember that if you practice in an unapproved premises, you'll be in trouble. And the premises should be safe. You are by all means going to deliver these healthcare services with equipment, products, and logistics. All these things should be on point so that it will enable you, the practitioner, to deliver excellent care in terms of pharmaceutical services. Remember, it's not only about healthcare delivery, it has a business aspect of it. And therefore, you need a business plan so that you'll not be running at a loss. In Ghana, it's basically private business. Hardly would you have a government-owned community pharmacy. So in order not to be losing, you should have a business plan. And of course, systems in place to ensure that you have adequate finances. Aside that, it should be in line with the laws of the state. Can't say that you are doing your own business and therefore you are going to disregard the rules of the game. Normally, that is what happens in Ghana. They only focus on the business aspects and they do a whole lot of things. Drugs have expired, drugs are unwholesome, not registered, and they are selling them, only focusing on profit. Of course, you should have enough cash, adequate cash flow to ensure smooth running of the business. So always remember that when it comes to community pharmacy practice, the key thing is that it's all about retail. Drugs are on pharmacy practice within the community. It's not normally within the public health system. It stands on two things: Center for Healthcare Delivery and a business aspect. And therefore, all the things that you need to ensure that you give excellent healthcare delivery and also to ensure smooth running of the business are in place to enable you achieve all your targets. Class captain, are we okay? Hello? Class captain, are you there? Any concerns so far?
No, please.
All right. Okay. So in Ghana, you realize that community pharmacy practice is getting a lot of attention, because if you consider the role they play in our healthcare delivery, it cannot be overemphasized. They are very, very important. Key stakeholders when it comes to healthcare delivery. Possible reasons being that these community pharmacies are accessible to their clients. You go there, normally you don't have to join any long queues. Very convenient place. Whatever that you need, quickly, you go and come back. If you have to go to a place like Confanoche, you can't just go to the pharmacy and no. Even if you go to the pharmacy, you'll be in a very long queue. And therefore, community pharmacies are very, very accessible and people patronize it a lot. So they are receiving attention a lot. Normally, when people are sick within the community pharmacy will be the first place they will go especially for minor ailments. Even at times, major ailments, they will go to the community pharmacies, and through the expertise of the professionals there, they may do referral to the appropriate healthcare facilities. So the community pharmacy, very, very important in our healthcare system. And therefore, everybody, government, those private individuals, it is our responsibility to make sure that we lift up the practice within the community pharmacy. And this doesn't depend on any single individual. It depends on everybody. It should be a collective responsibility, because if this entity is the first port of call, the first place that anybody will go to normally when they are sick, whether it is minor or major ailment, then we need to lift their level of practice, make sure that they do what they are supposed to do, all in the name of protecting the public health. Very, very important. Unfortunately, community pharmacy practice is urban bias. You go to the rural areas, you will not find pharmacy. We are not talking about over-the-counter medicine practitioners. We are talking about pharmacy proper. And normally, if you go to the rural areas, you only find the over-the-counter facility. Why is it that you always find pharmacies within the urban areas? If you go to the rural areas, yes, they have high demand for pharmaceutical care, but their purchasing power is very low. Remember, we said community pharmacy practice includes business aspect, and nobody would want to invest these huge sums of cash in a business and be running at a loss. One sad aspect about community pharmacy practice is that with drugs, if they are getting to the expiry, they are not like food stuff that you can eat themselves. You can't eat. You, the owner, you can't eat unless you have the condition. You can't be taking the drugs whilst you don't have. So you'll be sitting there looking at the drugs, then they expire on you. So nobody would want to go to an area where they have a very low purchasing power, and then all the drugs will expire on that person. You'll be paying a pharmacist if you are not the owner, or if the owner is not a pharmacist, electricity bills, taxes, and all those things. And therefore, everybody will want to set up this type of facility within the urban area where people are a lot. They have very high purchasing power, ready to buy, because it includes a business aspect. Another sad aspect is that because people are looking for profit in community pharmacy practice, you normally don't see them even joining the NHIS program. So the big question is, why are the community pharmacies not included in NHIS? Most of them, very few of them. If you have about 20 community pharmacies in Ghana, you have only about 5, if not less, delivering NHIS services to clients. The answers are clear. NHIS payment is an issue. I can't use my money to go and stock. I give it to NHIS holders. Then I'll be paid by 6 months' time or 1 year time. Nobody would do that. But the NHIS is one of the most important single policies that helps everybody. If you don't have cash and you are part of the NHIS, you can acquire at least some amount of your medications. Rural areas, we've discussed it, is all about purchasing power. Relative, if you are to compare urban areas versus rural areas, rural people don't have enough cash as compared to the urban people. And therefore, if you want to set up a business entity and enjoy profit, you wouldn't want to go into the hinterlands where you struggle and set up the facility only for the people there. They are not able to buy. With time, the expiry will be hunting you and you lose almost everything. So anytime is due to very bad moves, the way they pay the service providers is not encouraging, and therefore a typical businessman wouldn't want to engage him or herself. Another thing is that in Ghana, our healthcare delivery services, if you are to compare it with some of the local, if you are to compare the healthcare services within Ghana,
Laura, kindly mute yourself.
she's within town or something. Yeah. If you are to compare the healthcare service in Ghana to that of West Africa, then Ghana may be number one, if not number one, number two. But if you are to compare our system, our healthcare system with the Western world, then you realize that ours is far, far, far low. And therefore, this has also given the community pharmacy the chance. In the UK, US, unlike ours, that when somebody is sick, the first port of call is the community pharmacy. They would rather go to the hospital and maybe go to the community pharmacy to collect their medications because they have a far better level of healthcare system. But in Ghana, ours is down there as compared to those Europeans. And therefore, it gives the community pharmacist the chance to do a whole lot. If you have been there before, which I know that you've been there, you realize that when they come, you, the pharmacist, you play the role of a doctor and a pharmacist at the same time. You try to diagnose, they present their case to you, you plug them, at the end of the day, you diagnose, you prescribe, and you dispense. And therefore, this medical anthropologist called Kojosena in 2015, based on this, described the community pharmacist as somebody who is almost like a doctor because he does everything. And this is all about the weakness in our healthcare system. Even the Ghana National Drug Policy tries not to encourage that. The same person dispensing and prescribing. If there is any mistake, how are you going to identify? But we have some weakness, and therefore this is what is going on. It's always better to separate these two functions, prescribing and dispensing functions, so that there could be checks and balances. But relatively, our system is weak, and therefore people go straight to the community pharmacy, giving the community pharmacist the chance to do everything, doctor's role, pharmacist role. Positive or negative, in a way, I would say that that is not helping. Because if the same person diagnoses and prescribe and dispense, what if there is any mistake? Who is there to check on this? What if you don't get the diagnosis right, the prescription, if you don't get it right? What if you even fail to dispense appropriately? Then who is going to do this? One person doing everything. That is a huge gap within our healthcare system. But that is what is happening in Ghana. Our community pharmacists, they work almost just like doctors. They do everything, plus their own part that they do, pharmaceutical care. Class captain, are we okay?
Yes,
So
please.
that is one weakness within our healthcare system. Now, to be able to give excellent pharmaceutical care, the community pharmacist or the community pharmacy practice should observe what we call good pharmacy practice. In fact, this is applicable to everywhere that you see that pharmacy services is being delivered. Good pharmacy practice is non-negotiable. It should happen, whether it is the government setting, community setting, retail, wholesale, whatever. The basic thing is good pharmacy practice. What is good pharmacy practice? So this is the practice of pharmacy that responds to the needs of those who use the pharmacist services to provide key, optimal, and evidence-based care. So whenever anybody uses the pharmacist services, and that leads to the provision of optimal, not only optimal, but also evidence-based care, then we say that we have achieved good pharmacy practices. Very, very important. This is very important because with this, you're always going to get good outcomes. With good pharmacy practices, you are always assured of positive outcomes. And this must be observed within anywhere that pharmacy services is being delivered, including the community pharmacy practice. Yes, then there should be some requirements to be able to achieve good pharmacy practice. There should be some requirements. So when it comes to community pharmacy practice, as an example, what are some of the requirements to be able to achieve good pharmacy practice? As a pharmacist within the community setting, all your target or the center of your target is your patient. In other words, your client. So all that you want to do or all your concern is all about the welfare of your client, the patient. So what do you want to do? Which role do you play? All the things that the pharmacist will do is to make sure that the clients, they get the best use when it comes to medications, best use in all aspects. That is the basic concern of the community pharmacists. How do you achieve this? How do you make sure that the patients use their medicines well, the best use of their medicines? Of course, you will have to contribute as a community pharmacist to the promotion of rational, not only rational, but economic prescribing as well as dispensing. So your work starts from analyzing your prescriptions. You need to assess the prescriptions when they come in, the appropriateness, add economics. If this drug can do the work and another drug that is relatively expensive is prescribed, the economics comes in there. Can you contribute to make sure that the patient doesn't pay so much? So as part of making the patient experience the best use of their medicines, do not forget cash issues. It is equally important. So as a pharmacist, rational and economic prescribing as well as dispensing. The main objective of every pharmacist is to make sure that your patient, they have a clear idea of what is expected of them when it comes to the use of medications, the benefit that they will get from it. Make sure that this is communicated to the patient for the patient to understand. And of course, since pharmacists do not work in isolation, to be able to achieve good pharmacy practice, definitely it is going to be a multidisciplinary approach, including doctors, nurses, lab practitioners. Everybody within the healthcare system is involved because the patient doesn't just come and start taking medications. It starts from somewhere. So to be able to achieve good pharmacy practice, if the doctors mess up, and you also definitely going to what? Mess up. If they get the wrong diagnosis, especially where you were not part of the hospital system, they diagnose things there, they send the prescription to you within the community pharmacy. Definitely, wrong diagnosis comes with wrong prescription, and you're also going to do wrong dispensing. So it is a multidisciplinary approach. That is why elsewhere, where their system is proper, the community pharmacy is linked with the hospital so that even within the community pharmacy setup, you have the chance to have every information about the patient, just as the hospital guys would have, so that you can make meaningful impact. You go to the community pharmacy, it is cut off from the hospital setting in Ghana. And therefore, all that you have is the prescription that has been given to you. You don't know the patient, you don't know the medical history, nothing, social history. But elsewhere, the community pharmacy is connected to the hospital system. And therefore, all this information could be gathered so that the pharmacist can utilize all these and make an informed intervention. Hopefully, we will get there with time. I know that from time to time, if you are within the community pharmacy, since it's a multidisciplinary approach, you do even have the chance, even though you are cut off from the hospital system, but if you anticipate any wrong things as per the patient care, it's a multidisciplinary approach, and you have the chance to contact, especially the prescribers, even from the community pharmacy that is cut off. And therefore, you shouldn't be working in isolation. We are not directly connected, but it is still a multidisciplinary approach. Class captain, any issue?
No, please.
Any issue so far? All right. So now, in the community pharmacy, this thing, I'm sure we've discussed
Hello,
it.
sir.
Yeah, hello.
Someone has raised their hand. Antoinette Quaid. Please, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Okay. Dr. Bobo, good morning. Please, my question is that it's usually when we are to work in the community pharmacy, like this is a practical question anyway. When we are to work in the community pharmacy, with the statements you made about the economics aspects, where you give alternatives and all that, considering the cost, if the drugs have the same efficacy. Sometimes these days when people enter the pharmacy, they already have the notion that pay a dry something like that. And I experience it sometimes when probably they come and then there are other clients in the pharmacy, and because of what they've said, it's like they influence the other people too. So some of them will just come directly. Yeah, so when yes. So it's like there's no room for you to explain anything. This is what they want. This is what they want, considering the economy too. And there are also certain clients that no matter what, as for them, is the expensive drugs that they will buy. So as we are going to go into the community for the time being and all that, how do we intentionally balance the cost and the business aspects too, so that in the end you're not making too much of a loss, or you're also not trying to override and then make money at all costs when you know that you can actually give the alternatives and everything is fine. So that is my question. Yeah.
So this one is straightforward. It's all based on the type of client. In the community setting, like you have your catchment area, and most of the time, most of your clients. They come there. The moment even you see them, you know that, oh, this client, yes, he has a lot of cash, and you know the line of medicines that the person can buy. Others too, you know that even paracetamol, they want 50 pesos type. So as a professional, it is part of your duty to know your patient. And here I'm talking about the business aspects. The sad thing is when people come and you, the pharmacist, you know that drug A, B, C, D are irrelevant. And because you want to get more cash, you push those drugs on them. That is unprofessional. You know that the person doesn't need Hematenex, nothing, then you push it. But if from the patient's own free will, he says that, oh, as for me, I want expensive medicines. Of course, you see, you can't compare generics to innovators in any way in terms of outcomes. Normally, if you use innovators, the outcomes are normally better than using generics. So if from the patient's own free will, he says that, as for me, I want innovators, then fine. To those who cannot afford the innovators, then you know how to fix them by giving them the generics. But when it comes to you as the person to decide, that is where normally the problem is. Since you want more cash, normally what we do is to even add more drugs that the patient doesn't even need. And that is when the problem is. If it's coming from the side of the patient, then it's clear. It is either the patient have the purchasing power to buy expensive medicine or not. That one, it depends on the patient. But when the decision is on you, the pharmacist, to make, that you've been given the chance to decide for the patient, and we decide to abuse that chance, that is the problem. So remember that in as much as in the community pharmacy is a business entity, do not forget your primary duty, healthcare service delivery. And do what is good for the patient. Do not cause any harm in terms of cash or in terms of health. Do not do that. So with time, as you practice, I'm sure this is an experience that you had during one of your attachments. As you practice, you are going to experience more. But the basic thing is that when the decision is coming from the patient, whether the patient has the money to buy or not, that is easy. You know the type of patient you are dealing with. But the problem is when the chance is given to the pharmacist to decide for the patient. And we normally, in most cases, abuse it. Because it's either we want to impress our employers or whatever that we're pushing. So you shouldn't forget your ethics. You shouldn't forget your ethics and other things that surround your professional input. Always make sure that you marry the two. You consider both the business aspect and then the healthcare delivery aspect. If not, and you focus solely on the business aspect, you are going to cause trouble. If you also focus solely on the healthcare delivery aspect, then the business is going to run at a loss. With time, it will collapse and you cannot come there and then practice and get paid. So it's all about experience, you not forgetting your professional ethics and also not forgetting the business aspect of it. You need to compare everything and make wise decisions so that you don't become biased, not too business centered, not too healthcare, whatever centered. You mix the two and you balance them. Please, are you okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. So, as examples of good pharmacy practice within the community pharmacy, normally we dispense a lot. So I'm looking at it with this slide from when you've been handed a prescription and you want to do what dispense. It's not about you doing the patient clerk and getting information from the patient and doing the diagnosis. Typical of the pharmacy aspect, you'll be given a prescription from a hospital. So we've discussed this before. If you are handed with a prescription as part of the requirement of good pharmacy practice, what are the actions that are expected from you? Before you even dispense, there are actions that are expected from you that you, the pharmacist, you need to do. Afterwards, then during dispensing, there are also things that they expect you to do. Then after dispensing, you also have additional stuff that you need to do. So as part of the requirement of good pharmacy practice within the community pharmacy setting, if you are handed with a prescription, what are the actions that are expected of you before, during, and after? This one, we have discussed it before, I remember. So for example, once you are given a prescription, the actions that you are supposed to do first and foremost is to validate the prescription. You need to validate the prescription. And as per the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act, another action that you need to do is to record in the restricted medicines record book certain information about what you are going to give out and the person you are going to give the information to. And you yourself, the health service delivery person, what you are supposed to put in the books. Remember, every medicine is restricted in Ghana. We don't have any medicine that is exempted. All the classes of medicines have their interpretations beginning with restricted medicines. So ideally, it's not only about dangerous medicines that we should complete this kind of book. An example of this restricted medicines record book in our hospitals are the yellow books, the so-called dangerous drug books. They are just an example. Those ones are normally used for the drugs that we claim that they are dangerous. But by law, every drug in Ghana, we should take it through same process because every drug in Ghana is restricted. We don't have any drug in Ghana that is exempted from restrictions. So before you dispense, you validate the prescription. If the prescription is not valid, you don't even waste your time coming to fill in the restricted medicines record book. you do the needful. Either you get back to the prescriber or whatever and then fix the issue before you come back. So validate if it's okay. You know the input of what a valid prescription is. We've described that before. Then you complete the restricted medicines record book once the medicine is restricted. And I repeat, every medicine is restricted. So in this book, for example, the dangerous drug book, you are expected to fill in the following: the name and quantity of medicines to be supplied, the name, the address, and the signature or thumbprint, if the person cannot sign, of the person to whom the medicine is supplied. Here, your client, also known as your patient. And then the name and signature of the person who supplied the medicine. So you, the supplier, your name and signature, and the date of supply. The good thing is that currently that we are using electronic system. If you are using an electronic system, since everything will be recorded in the system and can therefore be retrieved later for audit purposes, you are exempted from filling the restricted medicine record book. For the dangerous drug book that we have in our hospitals currently, if you go in there, you see a very huge portion asking for the prescriber's information. By law, you don't need to put in the prescriber's information. So if the restricted medicine record book doesn't have that section, information about the prescriber, it is not unlawful, because from the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act, the restricted medicines record book doesn't need to have a portion to capture the prescriber's information. Please note, it doesn't need. So normally it's just like somebody coming to buy a dangerous medicine like morphine, and you are filling the form. The first thing that normally we care about is the prescriber's information. But by law, the restricted medicines record book, if it doesn't have any information about the prescriber, it's not a crime. By law, it's not a crime. But it should have at least those up here. So these are the two main actions that, as part of the requirement of good pharmacy practice in the community, if you have to deal with a prescription, the actions that you have to do for by law. We are not talking about clinical issues here. By law, you are to validate the prescription. If it's valid, then you go to fill in the restricted medicines record book, all this information. If you are doing electronic stuff, then you are exempted from doing those fillings. These are the two main actions that you need to do by law before you serve a prescription. Then afterwards, of course, I won't waste time talking to you about the components of a valid prescription. We've discussed all these already. I know that you have also discussed it with Dr. Ishak, so let's not waste time on looking at the input of a valid prescription. So after the actions before, then you come to dispensing. So during dispensing, what are the actions by law that's expected of you? Again, we are not talking about clinical issues here. By law, what is expected of you during dispensing? By law, you should make sure that the medicine is in a container of the prescribed description. We always prescribe containers that fit every medicine, whether it is an amber bottle or a plain bottle, whether it is a glass bottle, rubber bottle, or whatever, that will be prescribed by FDA, because they have the technical know-how to determine the appropriate container for each and every medication. So as part of your job and as part of the requirement of good pharmacy practice, you, the pharmacist, will have to make sure that you have the drug in the prescribed container. For example, if you are dispensing glyceryl trinitrate sublingual tablets, it's expected that you have these sublingual tablets at least in an amber bottle, because the drug is sensitive to light. This is just an example. So during dispensing, you have to check. One of the things you need to check is that the bottle is a number 1, and therefore it doesn't allow penetration of light to go in there and destroy the drug. Once you pick the drug, GTN sublingual, and it's not in such a prescribed bottle, then of course you know that you can save. So you are checking to make sure that the container is the appropriate one for its content. What is the content of the container? That is the drug. Then you make sure that the container bears a label indicating the information of the drug in the container. So the container should bear a label indicating the prescribed particulars of its content. And the content of the container is, of course, the drug. So make sure that the container is the proper one, is the prescribed one. And again, there is a label on the container giving all the necessary information about the drug. That is the meaning of the second statement. So the drug's name, if it's a compound preparation, all the various ingredients in there with their respective strengths, the total quantity, manufacturing date, expiry date, the address of the manufacturer. Just as you label your drugs after preparation in the dispensing lab, all the information should be there. The address of the manufacturing entity, make sure that everything is there. So these are the legal requirements when or during dispensing of medications. Before you dispense, you validate the prescription, you complete the restricted medicines record book. During dispensing, by law, you make sure that the drug is in the prescribed container, and the container is having a label that gives information about the container's content. That is the drug. Other things that you do are for clinical consideration. We are talking about law here. Then you dispense the drug. By law, after dispensing a drug with a prescription, class captain,
Hello, sir.
have you worked within a community pharmacy before?
Yes, please.
Have you dispensed a prescription before?
Yes, please.
Was the prescription fully served by you?
Yes, please.
What did you do after dispensing? On the prescription and any other actions that you do, especially the prescription form, what did you do? If you, let's say the prescription is given to you amoxicillin capsules, 500 milligram TID times 5, you've dispensed it fully. What do you do with the prescription form?
Okay, so this is not according to the law, but what we used to do, or what I used to do in the pharmacy, was after fully dispensing, I used to cancel the drugs and then keep the prescription at the premise.
Yes, at times even the patient will insist that they are going to use the prescription to claim their cash at the workplace. So they may even force you to hand over the prescription to them. Have you also experienced that one before?
Yes, please, countless times.
Okay, so I'm very happy that you are being truthful, that any prescription that is fully served, quickly you cancel it. I still do it. After finishing any prescription, I just cancel it. Can you tell us what the law actually states, what we should actually do after dispensing a prescription?
Okay, so after dispensing a prescription, you are supposed to enter on the valid prescription in indelible writing the date on which the medicine is supplied, and then the name and address of the supplier. And then also, if the medicine is fully dispensed, you retain the valid prescription for 2 years on the premises at which the medicine is dispensed, so that the prescription is readily available for inspection.
Very good. Which means that A legal document like a prescription that you, the pharmacist, you did not prepare, you are not allowed to cancel it. You are not allowed to cancel a document that you did not write. And therefore, it is improper for us to be canceling prescriptions that we did not write. So what is expected of us is just what our class captain has said. You should make sure that you use an indelible ink, not a pencil, something that can be easily erased. On the prescription form, you are expected, as the dispenser, to write the date on which the medicine was dispensed. And you, the dispenser, your name and address. That is what you are expected to do. So please stop canceling prescriptions. The fact that you are fully dispensed doesn't mean that you should dispense, you should cancel. It is a legal document. And when it is fully dispensed, you are expected to keep the prescription at least 2 years. If it is not fully dispensed, you do same. You enter on the prescription the date of dispensing, your name and address, and state the quantity that you have dispensed. If it is 30 capsules and you have dispensed 15, state it and hand over the prescription to the client so that in due time, the client will go to another place or come back to you and buy the remaining quantity to complete the prescription. At that time, the person who will do the final one, the person who will finish the dispensing, will have to keep the prescription for that 2 years. Class captain, are we okay?
Yes, please.
So prescriptions are not supposed to be given back to patients when they are fully dispensed. And remember, when a valid prescription is fully dispensed, it ceases to be valid. You agree with me? Class captain.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, class captain, when this amoxicillin 500 milligram TID, you are giving it to a patient, by all means, you do pre-packing. Is that not so? Because normally you have a whole box about 1,000 capsules in there, and the patient need just say 30 capsules. So if you have the 500 milligram per capsule amoxicillin, the patient needs 30 capsules for 5 days. Class captain, how do you label this medication for your patients? This is different from the labels that you have on drugs during manufacturing. It's not targeting any particular patient. This time, you are pre-packing these medicines for a specific patient. We do it everywhere, in the hospital, in the community. Remember that there are minimal or limited information that is expected of us that we put them on such a label for the patient. Class captain, what do you do if you are labeling a drug for a patient? What are some of the information or the minimum information that you put on the label? So you have a blank envelope, tablet envelope, blank. There is nothing on it. And the prescription reads, the patient's name, everything is there on the prescription, so it's valid. So I'm using Amox 500 milligram TID times 5. Fully dispensed. So how are you going to label this blank envelope for the patient so that you put your amoxicillin capsules in there? How do you do it?
Okay, so first of all, the patient's name, and then the name of the drug, so amoxicillin, and then the strength of the drug, which is 500 milligrams, the frequency, which is 3 times a day, and then the duration of the dosage regimen. Yes, so the name of the patient, the strength, the frequency, and then the duration.
Okay, so normally that is what you put there. Okay, so class captain, as part of the Ghana National Drug Policy, remember this section is also about policies. So it's laws, ethics, and policies. As part of the Ghana National Drug Policy, when it comes to labeling drugs for specific patients, please, you can't do anything lesser than what you are seeing here. These are supposed to be the limited information. Limited. It means you can even add more. But if you can't do more, at least these things that you are seeing there, make sure that they appear on the label of that medicine that you are pre-packing for a specific patient. And again, make sure that the name of the drug will come with the international non-proprietary name. In other words, the generic name. If it is a branded product, you put the brand name in brackets after the international non-proprietary name. So we label medications with their international non-proprietary name. When it comes to good prescribing practice, it's also expected that the doctors prescribe with the international non-proprietary name of drugs. In the essential medicines list, you should do or you should have the international non-proprietary names. The essential medicine list does not encourage the use of brands. No. The policy frowns on brands. But if the doctor insists of or demanding a particular brand, then after the international non-proprietary name, you put the brand. So if the doctor says that, oh, based on the severity or based on their policy in managing, say, meningitis, at least the first 3 days, they will need, say, Rocephin. The first 3 days, they will need Rocephin. If the prescription comes, you should read ceftriaxone into bracket Rocephin. It's against the policy for you to write only Rocephin. No. Don't think that everybody knows Rocephin. Somebody may not know Rocephin. So the policy states that prescribe and label medicines with the international non-proprietary name. And if there is the need to put in a brand, then the brand should be in brackets aside the international non-proprietary name. And the following should be the minimum information that should be at the back of that envelope for a particular drug. So as you said, since you are targeting a particular patient for identification purposes, the patient's name should be there. This is different from when you are labeling a drug from the manufacturing company where you don't know the person going to take it. So that one, you can't put the name of the patient there. So in the dispensing lab, if you are targeting the market, you don't put the name of any, you don't know who is going to take the drug. This one, you know your target. So the name of the patient should be there. Then the international non-proprietary name of the drug should be there. The strength of the drug, if it's just one ingredient in there, if it's a compound preparation, you should have all the active ingredients, their international non-proprietary name, and their respective strengths should be there. Then the total quantity of the drug to be dispensed. So in this case, if you are dealing with 500 milligram per capsule amoxicillin, and it is 8 hourly times 5, then you should state that your total quantity is 30. You should state it there. Very, very important. Quantity to be dispensed. Then the complete dosage regimen. So that is when the frequency will come in, and then the duration and everything will come in. Then the name and address of the dispensing facility. So where you are dispensing from, your name and address should be there. Again, let me go back. The dosage regimen could be in written form or graphical, depending on your target. If your patient is not educated and cannot read and understand, you are permitted to use graphics if that is what the patient will understand. So those zeros that we write, Those are examples of graphics. If that is what your patient will understand, the Ghana National Drug Policy permits, as part of good dispensing practice, which is part of good pharmacy practice, permits that you can use what? Graphics. If your patient can read and understand, then you can write it in words, English, or sentences. So complete those regimen in written and or graphic form, depending on the patient you are dealing with. If the drug demands special instructions, avoid alcohol, take with food, 30 minutes before meals, with first bite of meal, whatever. If the drug demands such special instructions, stay away from sunlight, direct sunlight, and those things. This information should also come. If you are to protect or store the drug away from heat and those things, all these special instructions should be there. Then the date on which the dispensing was done. Then the duration of use, depending on the prescription. If it's going to be 1 week, you state it there. These are the minimum information. You can't omit even one, because per the policy, as part of good dispensing practice, these are the minimum information that should come at the back of the envelope. Or if you are labeling any drug for a specific patient, you should have all these information at the back. Fortunately for us, most of these things are normally printed already. So to save time, you just need to fill in. So if you pick customized envelopes from hospitals, whether rubber or paper envelopes, you may have most of this information, like the address of the dispensing facility. So if it's Konfanochi, you already have Konfanochi Teaching Hospital, blah, 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 pharmacy, their contact and whatever, one tablet to be taken, then a day. All these things are there. So you just need to fill in few things. But if it's a blank envelope that you are going to fill, then it's on you, the dispenser, to make sure that these information, every one of them, should appear on the label. This is what the Ghana National Drug Policy expects us to do when we are dispensing, labeling of medicines for specific patients. All of us, we are at fault. Because of time, we don't normally put in this limited information. We do some of them, but we don't do. But you are going to write exams. Note that these are the limited information that's expected of you. So when you are asked, you need to provide all these info. Remember, international non-proprietary name. That is what you should do. If you demand a brand, you put the brand in bracket beside the international non-proprietary name. Class captain, are we good? Are we okay?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. So now, community pharmacist, what will be your role? What will be your role when it comes to community pharmacy practice?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Please, I think Antoinette has a question.
Okay.
Yes, so please, the international non-proprietary name. You see, most of the prescriptions come from the medical doctors or the prescribers. So if they don't, they probably write only the brand names or other innovator brand names. Is it a mistake on their part, or we would have to bear the grudge for that?
Yeah, so in the Ghana National Drug Policy, we have sections for good prescribing practice and sections for good dispensing practice. On their part, they shouldn't be prescribing with brand names.
Okay.
That's against the policy. They should prescribe with international non-proprietary name. But in cases where they insist that they need a specific brand, that is when they put that brand name in bracket after the international non-proprietary name. So if you insist that you want Rocephin as an example, you can't just write Rocephin 2 gram daily for 5 days and no. the policy frowns on that. You should first write ceftriaxone, then into bracket rocephin. That is what is expected of the prescribers. Then on our part, it's also expected that by writing the drug's name, you write the international non-proprietary name. And if it's a branded one that you want to add, you put the brand same in bracket. Never write only the brand, no. Always write the international non-proprietary name and put the brand in bracket if it is what the doctor is looking for. Please, are you okay?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Last Captain, any other question?
No, please.
Okay. So now, what do we do, pharmacists? What do you do when it comes to community pharmacy practice? Now, by law, Health Professions Regulatory Bodies Act, you should always have a pharmacist on the premises. That one, you don't need to even discuss it. Done. No pharmacist on the premises, not allowed. Because the pharmacist will have a special role to play because of your expertise and skills. Without you, no community pharmacy should be open to the public. And therefore, you are supposed to be there to superintend, and for that matter, supervise whatever goes on within the facility. So, why is it that we always need such a person within the community pharmacy? Why is it so? Because this person do have a lot of knowledge. From your training, from first year to final year, all these things that are captured there, you've been taken through. You have knowledge about the composition and properties of drugs. The best. You are the best. No other category of staff can compare what they know to you, the pharmacist. And therefore, you are supposed to be there. You have knowledge about various categories of diseases and classification of medicines. You remember posology and those things. You are the best. Knowledge about therapeutic doses of drugs, structure, activity, relationship when it comes to drug action. You remember your medicinal chemistry and your pharmacology. You understand the pharmacology of drugs. When it comes to analytical skills, you have it. Clinical knowledge, you are there. Information about adverse drug reactions and toxicology, you are there. And even medical terminologies, you are there. You have all these. So who else is the best person to be around when such a facility is open to the community? You are supposed to be there so that we make good use of your expertise. So you have all this knowledge, and therefore, of what use are you going to put this to? So let's look at some of the rules, essential rules of a community pharmacist. I must tell you that depending on where you are working, you may not play all these rules, but all in all, it doesn't matter. You may also play some of the rules. So at least pharmacists, if you are there as the superintendent, some of the things that is expected of you is number one, preparation of medications. In the community pharmacy, we are allowed to do extempo preparations. In the good old days, hardly would you see extempos like MMT and Experced being prepared and bottled. These were supposed to be freshly prepared products. So as and when the patient comes in and they need it, quickly, you prepare it for them. Experced and MMT and those things, they were supposed to be freshly prepared. Nowadays, we don't do it. You bottle them and you keep them for about 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and you are selling them. No. So you could prepare. You have knowledge in all these preparations. Getting drugs from other places to stock. So obtain storage. You know about storage requirements of medications and what can happen in terms of deterioration. You know all this. So you have the best knowledge when it comes to storage requirements. Secure, distribute, administer. You know the right persons to distribute drugs to. When it comes to administration, you know how drugs are supposed to be administered. You know. When it comes to drug disposal, you have the best. You know the type of harm drugs can cause, and therefore you should be around to supervise all this if you are not the one doing it. Aside this, you can also provide effective medication therapy management, of course. You have your clinical knowledge, you can do it. Maintain and improve professional performance. Yes. Get more knowledge, current ones, so that you maintain and improve your performance. Overall, you do some of these things, then it means that you are contributing to, when it comes to improvement in the effectiveness of the healthcare system and public health in Ghana as a whole. You are playing your part within the community pharmacy setting, which is part of the bigger picture, the healthcare system in Ghana. And therefore, playing your role there to the best of your capabilities, you contribute effectively to the healthcare system and the public health system in Ghana. As I said, depending on where you are, you may or may not play some of these roles. More rules. It's not only about drugs that you deal with as a superintendent pharmacist. You have your subordinates that you work with. Your customers come in, you control them, you manage them. So you are also a manager. So you manage people, your staff, you train some of them, you serve as a role model for some of them, especially students on attachment when they come. Your customers, you manage them. Some customers are very stubborn. You need to manage them. You deal with suppliers. You should know how to manage your suppliers. And therefore, you should have enough control when it comes to communication. You manage all these people, you communicate with them. So it's not only about your pharmaceutical aspects. You are also a manager in a way, and you manage people almost like an HR person. You will deal with problems if you are the superintendent pharmacist. People will come with complaints. You have to control stock management, time management. These are all problems that you have to deal with as a superintendent pharmacist. Your staff, you have to make sure, this is very, very important, occupational health and safety. The occupational health, it includes you making sure that your workers' well-being, top-notch, both their psyche and their pocket. You make sure that they are paid well. You make sure that they have sound mind. If they are not paid well, if they don't have sound mind, be ready. You can't achieve safety. If I come to work and I'm hungry because the salary is very poor, I'm not focused, and I may do a lot of harm to patients. So you, the superintendent pharmacist, occupational health and safety, basically about your workers, about your subordinates, is on you. You are responsible for pharmacy operations in general and creating SOP standards for these operations. And at times, if you double as the owner of the facility, you also be managing finances. So as I said, depending on where you are and your status, you may play certain roles or may not play certain roles. If you, the superintendent pharmacist, you are also the owner, then you also be dealing with financial management. So these are some of the essential roles that a superintendent pharmacist may play. And to be able to meet this target, at least you should be an 8-star pharmacist. Remember, an 8-star pharmacist should have all these attributes. You are a caregiver. That is your basic core duty. You're a communicator. We said that you communicate. You'll be handling human beings, your clients, your suppliers, your workers, your staff. You communicate. You are a decision maker. You always make decisions, especially when you want to dispense. Am I supposed to dispense this or not? Is this prescription valid or not? So many decisions. So you are a decision maker. You are a leader. Of course, you are the supervisor there, so people look up to you. To be able to maintain your performance, you should be a lifelong learner. Even when you are 80 years, 90 years, you will always be reading, because pharmacy, it changes from time to time. You are a manager, you are a teacher, they bring students to you, they bring people to you, you always teach them. And above all, you are a team player. The fact that you are the boss doesn't mean that you should be bossy. You are dealing with other professionals, pharmacy technicians, whatever. You'll be contacting doctors, nurses. So you should be a team player. Remember, we said it is a multidisciplinary approach to be able to ensure that you achieve good pharmacy practice in the community setting. You, the superintendent pharmacist, should be a team player. Class captain, any questions so far? Any questions?
No, please.
All right. So quickly, we said that as part of the essential roles played by a pharmacist, you may have to create standards for the pharmacy operations and services. So in the community pharmacy setting, let's try and quickly go through some of the basic SOPs that are essential, that are very, very important when it comes to achieving success in the community pharmacy setup. So standard operating procedures, creating them and maintaining them. At least, you can do more. But the following 7 SOPs that we are going to discuss, if you want to get the best, then you should have them. You should have these SOPs on the following 7 staff aspects that a community, every community pharmacy should have SOPs on the following 7. Now, if you say SOPs, before you even start attacking those 7 that I'm talking about, what is an SOP? We need to understand what an SOP is before we tackle the main thing. So SOP is a written document, not a verbal one. It is not a verbal one. It's not like an answer story, folktale and those things. It should be a written document, detailing specific steps to follow in all activities under defined conditions. So SOPs on every activity should be written, and it should give you the steps from number 1 to 2. From 2, this is what you should do. 3, from 3, detailing the steps in simple English, not technicalities, so that whoever reads it, it is self-taught. The person doesn't need any explanation from a second person before he or she understands the SOPs. Basic English. Detailed one, but very simple, precise, and concise, so that everybody will understand and follow them. It's not like you are going to narrate anything. It should be written and it should be made available to each and everybody who needs to have access to it. And of course, it clearly defines and assigns rules. Clear, no ambiguities. One good thing about SOPs is that if you follow SOPs, you achieve good practices at all times, not sometimes, at all times. If you follow SOPs, if everybody follows SOPs, good practices will be achieved at all times. C, it ensures the continuity of risk management and harm minimization. If you follow SOPs, you minimize harm. If you do things anyhow without following SOPs, you can create problems. Another good thing is that even if you are not a permanent staff at all, you only come there sometime, maybe 2 days a week, some few hours, and you follow SOPs, you will work as if you are a permanent staff there. But that is what everybody is doing. SOPs could also be used as a training tool. For example, students, if you go there, they use SOPs to train you, you follow, you are there. Another key thing that SOP serves is that it's like everybody is following the same thing. So, for example, if you don't follow SOPs in the community pharmacies, one of the outcomes is that a certain client will come and insist that he needs a specific worker there. He doesn't want anybody to work with. He says, oh, I'm waiting for this pharmacist. Oh, he will come around 8 p.m. I will wait for him. Meanwhile, you are there and you also work within that facility. This shows that you guys are not using SOPs. So it means that the workers in there have different ways of practicing. And if you practice differently within the same facility, by all means, some of you will be doing better things than others. And your clients would want those doing good job to see them, not you. With SOPs, you are all doing almost the same thing. Level of quality of care almost the same. And therefore, clients are not likely going to insist that they want to wait for one particular person. So what if that person leaves? He resigns from that facility. And it means the person is going with that client. Class captain, do you agree?
Yes, please.
So this is very, very important. This is very, very important. One of the key benefits of SOPs practically is this one. Normally, you are there and clients are always looking for one particular person to, as in, serve them. Why so? It means that person is doing something different, and that is what they like. The others, you are bogus. If all of you are following SOPs, at least you will not have significant differences between your level of care. And if clients come, it doesn't matter who is there, they'll be comfortable with anybody. So that is one thing that SOPs. So if the one doing the right thing leaves the facility, he's going with all the 1,000 clients, and you are going to lose customers. So SOPs can also help solve such an issue. Now, the first SOP that every community pharmacy needs is SOP for the premises and the equipment that the staff they will work with. You need standards for the premises itself. There should be standards. And you've discussed this with Dr. Ishak enough. Class captain, what are the standards for the retail pharmacy? We are talking about community pharmacy. We said is a retail pharmacy practice within a community. So I'll restrict myself to the retail pharmacy setting when it comes to premises. What did you discuss with Dr. Ishak? Class captain.
Hello, sir.
When it comes to standards for retail pharmacy premises, what is expected of you?
Okay, for the retail, for the premises, you need for the size of the.
Don't push too much. I don't need the measurement and those things, but tell me the rooms, the various things that you need to have within the retail pharmacy. Okay. Don't mention the size, the length, and those things. You can refer later.
Okay, so you need potable water and then a sink. You need a working surface area for your extemporaneous preparations. You need a place.
The various rooms that at least you need. Okay, so the pharmacy area, the dispensary.
Yes, please.
The counseling, the storeroom, and all those things. Yes. So these are like standards. Pharmacy Council has set those standards that for premises you should have. And that is standard. If you don't have, then they are not going to permit you to even start the job. This SOPs when it comes to premises. So you should also have a washroom attached to the facility. If they say now you should have an air conditioning room, then it becomes part of the standard. If they can prescribe the type of floor that you need, the type of shelves, everything, the ceiling length, the minimum room size, all those should be part of the SOPs. the type of equipment that you should have. In fact, these are all parts. How you should even label your premises, the signboard, how it's supposed to be written for identification purposes. It's going to help you, because if you don't, as in have a signboard, for example, how would people know that this place is a pharmacy? Unless they come and enter and look at it. You'll be there, then somebody will come and buying milk, or I'm buying soap. Nowadays, people even do cosmetics in addition to drugs. They will come and ask something, but if you have a well-written signboard, everybody knows it's a pharmacy. So yes, it will direct people to there. When they come, they won't come and say, I'm buying boxer shorts. No. So standards for the premises and equipment is very important. You should have standards for how you keep your equipment and the premises so that the place will be safe for both staff and client. There should be SOPs for all that, how you handle the machines, standards for cleaning of the machines, how you calibrate the machines. Everything should be there. And the core thing is that you want to achieve safety, best practices, safety for both client and staff. Any question on this? So every community pharmacy should have standards for the premises and the equipment that they use in the standards. To achieve good practices, you should have standards or SOPs for premises and equipment. Class captain, any question?
No, please.
Okay, so the second one is those who work in there. You should also have standards, SOPs for staff and their supervision. You should have standards for staff, how they comport themselves, how they practice. So practice management. What kind of staff are you going to hire? Is it just anybody or those with the knowledge when it comes to the job that you are going to do? Are they pharmacy practitioners? Or you are going to hire anybody at all to come? Because if you put in bad staff, you get bad results. So you make sure that your staff are empowered and they are competent to safeguard the health, safety, and well-being of patients and the public. You don't go and put your wife there. Your wife is a banker or a teacher. So because you don't want to pay people, you let her resign from the teaching work, and then she's now the superintendent pharmacist. You two, you are not there, you are doing your own rounds. No, you are putting the health of the whole public at risk. Then the presence of a pharmacist, of course, is non-negotiable. This one, we are not even going to talk about it. And it's not only about hiring those who are competent. Do you have enough staff? Because if you need 3 staff and you only hire 1, you are going to stress that person. It goes back to square one. It's almost just like you creating or putting the health of the client as in red light. You are going to put them in a very risky situation. If your staff is stressed, they can't perform. A lot of mistakes happens if you stress your staff. So don't be too stingy. If you need to hire 3 people at a time and run 3 shifts, do just that before somebody dispenses diazepam as Bico tablet because the person is stressed. So you should have sufficient and appropriate professionals, technical and support staff to deliver that type of service that you want to. And there should be resources available to do that job. You should give them the needed equipment and everything to do what is expected of them. So this is what should go into when you are setting standards for staff and supervision. It's all about hiring the competent ones, always empowering them. Make sure that you give them the necessary equipment that they need. You should have enough staff to meet the task. If you need 10, don't go and hire 2 and stress them. Remember, even this, we even increase waiting time of customers. They come, and if you have 10 people there, very short time, you serve everybody. By a job that 10 people should do, you are using 2 people to do. You are going to cause a lot of traffic there. And people will tag you with that, and they will not even come to your facility again. Class captain, are you okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So more standards. So the third standard, I said we are going to deal with 7 standards. So the third standard is standards for services, SOPs for services. So when we say pharmacy services in the community setting, what do you mean by pharmacy services? So services cover all pharmacy-related services provided by a registered pharmacy, including the management of medicines, advice, and even referrals. So if you realize that this is even above your level of care, and therefore you need to refer to the next level of care, that is part of the services. And it is a very good service because if not, you were going to keep the patient for the patient condition to deteriorate. Knowing that this condition you should refer, that is a very huge plus. So referrals to are part. Not that you are going to lose because you are referring, so it's not part of the services. Referral to is an essential aspect of the services that the community pharmacy they render, and any other wide range of clinical services provided by the community. So these are all services that we produce or we provide. Specifically on patient care services, make sure that the patient care service that you provide is in line with the laws and regulations. Don't do what you are not supposed to do within the community setting. If you are not supposed to inject maybe IV per IV, don't do that. If you are not supposed to admit patients there, don't be admitting patients. Some people will go and hire nurses and they will be doing this clinical work there, admitting patients at the back, even giving them infusions and what have you, giving them drugs per IV, and you are not supposed to do that. Don't do that. There are certain things that you are permitted to do. In fact, within the level of care, community pharmacy is grouped under the community level of care. So the things that is not expected of us to do within that level, the community level, you are not supposed to do. Don't go and do what is not expected of you. You are not supposed to inject. Don't inject. You'll be in trouble. At least some of these things you are permitted to do as part of patient care services within the community pharmacy. So health and wellness programs, for example, it's not against the law for a community pharmacy to do this. So you doing blood pressure screening or monitoring for patients, it's not a crime. You doing pregnancy test, RDT, that is malaria rapid diagnostic test, it's not a crime. But don't go and be giving injections per IV within the community. Do not admit patients there. That is not a clinic. It's not a hospital. Okay. Smoking cessation program, weight loss programs, you can do by giving advice. Immunization programs, some of them we are permitted to do. Programs to monitor and improve patient medication adherence, that one is key. Very key aspect when it comes to pharmacy practice. Chronic disease education programs, you are allowed to do. And chronic disease management programs. Elsewhere, hardly would you see people going back to the hospital for their refill. No, they just connect with a community pharmacy, and whenever they need a refill, they go there and get it. The prescription from the hospital to the community pharmacy. So the hospital don't worry themselves like ours that you see long queues within Confanoche. Why? People are coming for refills. They are not coming for review. They only came because they are coming for more drugs. How? Elsewhere, it is community pharmacies who do these things. You only come to the hospital when you are coming to see a doctor. Yes, there may be on that day some drugs that you need, they give it to you. But refills, no, you don't go back to the hospital. You go to the community pharmacy. Class captain, are you okay? And if you have standards for all these, how do you go about them so that you don't go against the laws and regulations of the game? Class captain, are you okay?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Hello,
You sleep.
hello, Doctor. I'm Doctor Bobo.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, can you please throw more light on the immunization? Because I know it has to do with injection and stuff. So How is that being done?
Oh, yeah,
Is it
so
under a specific?
no, some pharmacists have now acquired the license to do certain type of immunization. They've been taken through some programs and they've been given the license to offer certain type of immunizations. In Kumasi, I know of Garrison Pharmacy that they can give some vaccinations like COVID and those things. So it's not like any pharmacist can do. No, you need to go through the training for you to be accredited to do these immunizations or vaccinations. Please, are you okay? Hello?
All right. Sure.
Yes. So if the facility is not accredited, you can't do it. No. So it is those who have applied and they've been taken through the program and they are now certified. They've been approved to offer such a service. Any other question? Okay, class captain, can we continue?
Yes, please, we can continue.
Yes. Then every community pharmacy should also have standards for systems of operations. So how the pharmacy operates, you should have standards. So a pharmacy should operate a comprehensive and auditable, very, very important, auditable system. You don't just mess up things like that. When somebody even steal a drug, you are not able to identify. Everything is messed up. Basa, no. You don't do that. So you need to set standards, SOP, so that you have a comprehensive, auditable system for the control and maintenance of appropriate level of legitimate stock, which is held within prescribed storage conditions and facilities. So operations, controls. So you should set standards for how drugs come in, the records that you need to take. So when drugs come, how do you record it? How do you input them onto a certain system? Now that we have electronic systems, if it goes to a patient, who approves this, who approves that, how is the balance done? Stock taking, all these things. You should have internal controls. That will be what make it appropriate or possible for the system to be audited. Some people just open the system and everything is basa. You don't have standards for such operations. So when the facility is even collapsing because theft is going on, they don't even realize it. By the time they realize, then the facility is collapsed. No, you need to set SOPs for operations, and you should make sure that you have a comprehensive and auditable internal controls so that if such things are happening, you have some means of identifying them. So SOPs for operations, very, very important. You should set your own standards. Are you going to use an electronic system that helps you to identify which drugs are even getting to expiry, which drugs are getting to stock out, whatever, how to check your stock every now and then, all those things, you should set standards. How drugs are received, how drugs are moved to the counter, how drugs are dispensed, how the balances are made, and whatever. Are you using tally cards? Are you all those things, operations? You should set these internal controls. And it should be developed as part of the minimum, the 7 SOPs that are required. If not, you are going to run at a loss or you are running at a loss, you will not even know. So this process, if you are able to do, it prevents and it deals with fraud, not only fraud, waste and abuse. Very, very important SOP. Class captain, are you okay?
Yes, please.
Hello. All right. Then quality assurance, of course, all the things that we've mentioned. The apex is quality assurance. Everything that you are doing based on quality assurance. So, for example, you need to set SOPs and be able to identify quality related events. For example, so if maybe you were dispensing and you did the wrong medication, there should be some SOPs to improve this. to be able to identify this quality related event so that you know how come that error occurred. And through this, you analyze and find solutions to it so that it does not repeat itself. So you should have SOPs for quality assurance. How do you even record quality related events? You shouldn't make it as if something is identified and you are going to punish the person, then nobody will report that they did such a mistake. If I know that if I report myself and I'll be punished, if I do it, I won't even report. So I remember my very first time at Confanoche as a student, they had salbutamol tablets, loose ones, pinkish in color. Then propranolol was also beside salbutamol, also pink. Those days, loose ones, propranolol tablet. So they were both pink. Then the prescription was, I think the prescription was propranolol. The person was hypertensive. So those days we were using propranolol a lot. So mistakenly, I dispensed salbutamol. So imagine if the patient was rather asthmatic, then I dispensed the propranolol. So if you have quality assurance, SOPs on it, and I know that if I report such a mix-up, I will not be punished. Then in the name of quality assurance for better improvement next time, I'll report. And as part of it, the solution may be like, okay, why did you put these two drugs at the same place? They look alike. Everything is like the same. The tablet size, the color, everything. So through this report, as part of the SOPs on quality assurance, the next time you analyze and find solutions to it, okay, don't put the two close to each other. Put this one here, put this one there. But if I know that if I report, I'll be punished, then I won't do it. So you should have SOPs for sections, quality-related events like search mix-up. Through this, that's the only way you can find your problems and analyze it, find solutions to it, and improve upon it. So SOPs on quality assurance is very, very important. At times you realize that you are selling a drug and you sell it at a lower cost. You sell it at a lower cost. Instead of 100 cedis, you gave it to the patient at 50. Or instead of 100 cedis, you sold it at 150. As part of quality assurance, whether it was a lower one or higher one, somebody is going to lose, either the patient or the company. You should find a way of, through the SOPs on quality assurance, reporting this event, analyzing it, and finding solutions. It's all about having a better performance in future. That is what quality assurance stands for. You find faults today, through quality assurance, you find solutions, you get a better performance later. Every community pharmacy needs this so that your performance will improve. Class captain, any queries?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
If we're Boatin, please, do you have a question?
No, sorry.
All right. Then, one key aspect of pharmacy practice is counseling. Counseling is very, very important because at the tail end, from the consultation room to labs, back to consultation, prescription, pharmacy, your drugs is going to be handed over to you. If the counseling doesn't go well, all the time that you spent at the hospital, bogus. And therefore, this specifically, you should have an SOP on counseling. Very, very important. How do you counsel? So that everybody, every staff will follow that particular strategy of counseling. So counseling, of course, normally you acquire the skills as you keep on doing it. And the target is to make sure that your patient or your client get the best understanding of, more importantly, how to use the medicines. That is the main target. So you should have an SOP for the way you do counseling. From this step to the next step, maybe you start from patient education on the condition and blah, blah, blah. The next one is education on the medications. what each drug is used for, the role of each drug, the expected adverse drug reactions, what to do when the adverse drug reaction occurs. Everything, what to eat and what not to eat, should in case there may be any interactions. The drugs to take, that is non-prescription medications and all those things you should write in the SOPs for counseling. If not, you've wasted everybody's time. All right. Then you should also have pharmacovigilance. You see, pharmacovigilance, once you are part of the healthcare system, even clients who are not direct performers, who are not direct workers within the healthcare system, they are part of pharmacovigilance, as we discussed the other day under the public health. Everybody is part of pharmacovigilance, whether you are a worker or you are the patient. So, as part of the community pharmacy, they play key role. That is where people even report more when it comes to drug reactions and those things. So, you should have SOPs on pharmacovigilance, how to even report adverse drug reactions, how it is done. SOPs on pharmacovigilance should be able to identify all these and instruct how these are supposed to be done. So how you interact with patients of suspected ADRs. Not only ADRs, including lack of efficacy. Now it is part. If somebody takes any drug and it doesn't work, yes, you have to also report as part of it. And even manufacturing defects, so quality defect, poor packaging, questionable stability, and suspected contaminations, all of these things are supposed to be part of the SOPs. And they are supposed to be part of the things that you report to the FDA. So this one too is very important, very, very important aspect as part of the basic 7 SOPs that each and every pharmacy or community pharmacy should have. Mind you, aside this 7, you can do more. But if you can't do more, if you want to perform as a community pharmacy and perform very well, these basic 7 SOPs should be created for each and every staff within that facility to follow. SOPs on pharmacovigilance, operations, staff, premises, everything, all the 7, you should have SOPs on so that this basic 7, everybody will follow. And if you do that, quality services, patient safety, staff safety will be achieved at all times. Class captain, any queries before we tackle briefly the financial aspect of, because remember we said it's not only about healthcare services, it also includes business aspect. So we need to quickly run through the business aspect of it. Any queries? Else we start documentation and financial management. It's a business entity, so we need to know something brief about that.
No, please, you can proceed.
All right. So records keeping, very, very important, as always. So common records that we keep, common records anywhere. For example, sales book. You should have your sales book every day, the sales that you make, you enter. Purchases day book. If you go out there and buy drugs and come and add every day, Returns day book. If there are returns, if you entertain returns in your facility, you should have it. Then expenses day book, payroll and those things. Yes, so as you pay your staff, you should have them. Then petty cash, these are small cash that you keep on you, that if quickly you want to go and buy something and then give it to a patient, those petty cash, you have to get them. Bank reconciliations, you go there, you put some cash in there, you go and withdraw. You should keep proper records because human beings are bad. Anything at all can happen. Then you should have a statement or a list of your assets, your fixed assets, you should have a register for it. So these are some of the documentations that you can make, bookkeeping records and those things. Why do you waste your time doing all this? Why do you waste your time? For 2 main purposes. One, to keep track of the pharmacy's income and expenses. You need to keep track on the pharmacy's income and expenses. Because if you do this, this is the only way that you would have chance of making profit. You have the chance to know whether you are losing or you are gaining. Keep track on income and expenses. The only way to know whether you are losing or you are gaining. If you are able to gather this information, you can also have accurate financial data that you may need. For example, issues like filing tax returns. And also, if it is a company that you have a lot of stakeholders, you have data so that you present to all the stakeholders of the company. Because these are the things that you use, for example, to prepare your financial report. So at the end of a certain duration, you may have to go and then render accounts. If you don't have data on this, how are you going to give such an account to them? Filing tax returns, you need data. Knowing whether you are losing or you are gaining, you need data. So these are the main reasons why you do all this record keeping. Class captain, are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so quickly, cost management strategies. In the community pharmacy, we said it's a business entity. You have your capital and you are investing. So you can't joke with your cash. For example, you overstock, the drug expires, you've lost, you are losing. So you need to have ideas about cost management strategies. So for example, let's look at these strategies. You have to control stock. You have to control your stock and keep it at optimum levels so that you don't get stock out or you don't overstock. You don't need to get frequent stock out. Every now and then, people will come to your facility. I'm buying Vemos. You say Asa. I'm buying Vemos. Asa. They will tag you that this pharmacy, if you go there, Asa, and people will stop coming to you. If you overstock too, these are the problems. Normally, in elsewhere where laws actually work, every facility will need to ensure that they've secured insurance for the drugs that they've stocked. And as you have more loads, then your insurance cost will also go up. So you don't need to overstock. Again, if you overstock, then you pave the way for possible expiries, which you lose. Hence, make sure that you control the stock and keep it at an optimum level to avoid stock out and to avoid overstocking that may lead to unnecessary expiries. You can do this through automation. So you automate some of these processes. You can now use some softwares. You have softwares there that they can set for you based on your consumption pattern. You can even set reorder levels and minimum stock levels and what have you. The system can even alert you drugs that are getting closer to expiry, maybe 3 months to expiry. There will be a pop-up and you will know all the drugs that are within that as in range, so that you know how to strategize and push all of them. Yes, so you can use some of these softwares to control all this. You don't need to worry yourself too much. Just buy the software and then it does the work for you. Then access to database of suppliers. You don't need to be going to suppliers every now and then. You have their database, you connect them, they can even supply you with the medicines without you going there. Always order when you need them. You don't just need to order drugs anyhow. One good thing is that never deal with all suppliers. Never deal with all suppliers. Only deal with reliable suppliers. You have some suppliers, you tell them you've run out of stock, you've put in the order today, they will supply you next week. So within that duration, you'll be telling people, asa, and it will go against you. So deal with reliable suppliers, not all suppliers. Class captain, are you okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So quickly, cash management, cash flow management. Always match cash inflows against outflows and make sure that you maintain adequate cash. Balance the two. Should in case you are lucky and you have surplus funds, don't just keep them in your accounts and keep them idle. Invest them. If you can open another facility, open. If you can even invest it in another thing different from pharmacy, do it. Do sweeping account. Sweeping account, it's just like if you have another account that comes with a higher interest rate, you have to put this surplus amount in those accounts so that you earn more. And always keep petty cash on you. These are small amounts of funds that you use for small purchases on daily basis. And make sure that they are in a safe. Petty cash, they are there. The target is to maybe if you have some outbreak and there is unforeseeable shortage, that's not the time to be going to the bank to get cash. You have those petty cash on you to quickly run to a certain wholesale facility and get those drugs so that you will not run out of stock. Keep them, but keep them in a safe. Human beings are bad. So that is the end of the cash management and those things. Any questions so far? Quickly, you look at the Ghana National Drug Policy, the key aspects,
Look,
then we close. Yeah, hello?
please, I want to ask whether the cash management and all those things are part of the exams.
It's possible. You never know the questions they are going to ask you. They expect you to know this because you've had attachment in a community pharmacy before. Are you okay?
Yes, please.
They expect you to know community pharmacy practice. And we said community pharmacy practice is not only about the pharmacy practice. It's also about what? Business. Do you get it?
Yes.
So they expect you to know. When you had your attachment, the supervisor there was supposed to teach you all this. Not just going to dispense and going back. No. He was supposed to teach you everything about community pharmacy practice, including the healthcare side and the business aspect. Please, are you okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so they can ask you any question. Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other question? Class captain.
No, please.
All right. So now, once you practice pharmacy, it doesn't matter whether it is the community pharmacy or hospital pharmacy or whatever. You will by all means be affected by some national policies. And one of the key national policies that affect pharmacy practice everywhere is the Ghana National Drug Policy or the Ghana National Medicines Policy. So since it affects any pharmacy practice, including community, let's take this opportunity and look at the Ghana National Drug Policy quickly, not into detail. So what is this? So the latest one or the current one is the 2017. So the 2017 Ghana National Drug Policy. They say that this policy is the document that provides guidance and direction on the pharmaceutical sector in Ghana. And it represents the ideas from all stakeholders. It has two main purposes, aims or targets. The very first one is that the Ghana National Drug Policy is to ensure universal, equitable. Please note this because they set questions on this, the Ghana National Drug Policy. Very, very important document. Ensure universal, equitable, and sustainable access to priority. Not only priority, but efficacious and safe medicines of acceptable quality and cost to all people living in Ghana. So you, the same person, you want efficacious, safe medicines and quality medicines, but the cost to you want it to be acceptable. That is what the National Drug Policy aims at. So that is one aim. The second aim is about promoting rational use of medicines. Rational use of medicine. So apart from ensuring equitable distribution of efficacious, priority, top quality medicines at acceptable prices, it also aims to promote rational use of medicines. So promoting the responsible use of medicines by healthcare providers and consumers. So healthcare providers, we are also supposed to make sure that we obey the principles of rational use of medicines, not only us, the patients too, in line with Sustainable Development Goal 3, which is about health for everybody. So that is the two main aims of the Ghana National Drug Policy, making sure that there is universal, equitable, and sustainable access to priority, efficacious, and safe medicines of acceptable quality and cost for everybody living in Ghana. It also aims to promote the responsible use of medicines by both health workers and consumers. If you do this, then you are in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 3, which is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all, no matter your age. So this is the main two aims, the two main aims of the Ghana National Drug Policies. Quickly, key strategies of the Ghana National Drug Policy. 1, bridging of equity gaps in geographical access to health services. Rural areas versus urban areas. We have huge gap when it comes to healthcare services. Those in the urban areas are enjoying. Rural areas, if somebody is even going to deliver, they will have to carry that person all the way from the rural area to the urban area. They lack access to health services. The National Drug Policy seeks to bridge that gap. That is one of the strategies. To ensure sustainable financing for healthcare delivery. That is another strategy. Improve efficiency in governance and management when it comes to drugs. Intensify the provision and control of communicable and non-communicable disease. If you are a disease, if you don't fall under communicable, you fall under non-communicable. So every condition is targeted, intensifying provision and control of all disease conditions. Improving quality of health service delivery, very important. And the last one, the policy seeks to support the proposal to implement a policy that separates the prescribing and dispensing functions of health professionals. Very, very important. Whoever prescribes shouldn't dispense. Whoever dispenses shouldn't prescribe for obvious reasons. So those days, you go to the consulting room, you see a certain bag beside the doctor. He has drugs in there. He prescribes, then he also sells the drugs to you in the community, in the consulting room. You go to the pharmacy the pharmacist prescribes and then sell the drugs to you. If there is any mistake, who is going to check? So one of the strategies of this national drug policy is to separate this function. A different person should prescribe. A different person should dispense. Class Captain, any issues?
No, sir.
So in conclusion, I would say that from those things that we've discussed so far, it is obvious that community pharmacy practice is key. But to be able to enjoy its role, we need to do certain things. We need to improve upon our community pharmacy practice. SOPs is the way forward to achieve that. Class Captain, quickly, Sustainable Development Goals. This one, I will urge you to go and read it. It's like you need to know them. During our time, it used to be just 8 that we used to call it Millennium Development Goals. Now they've split the 8 into 17 that you are supposed to know them. You never know what will drop. But if you are not going to learn all of them, please go and learn goal number 3. Goal number 3. You remember, as part of the aims, we even stated goal number 3 here, aims of the Ghana National Drug Policy. We said the second aim is in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 3, health for all. So if pharmacy practice is about health, you can't dodge goal 3. So know them. Not that you should chew them like goal 1 is no poverty, goal 2 is zero hunger, but at least you should know this. You should know. You should know up to the 17 and know about goal 3. There is nothing to explain under Goal 3, all these are statements, the target that they want to achieve. So the target of Goal 3, just read them about 3 or so slides. You go and read them what Goal 3, which is health for all, good health and well-being, seeks to achieve by the year, depending on the type of thing that they want to control. Some of them by the year 2030, they've stated the level by which they want to reduce it to or improve it to. So just read on them and then know. I'm not asking you to go and chew them. This is not a major aspect of the law, ethics, and policy. Just that you should know. You should know that these things are also there so that in case of MCQs or if you get some wicked examiner and wants to examine you on such things, you'll not be surprised. So please read on them. These are just statements. Reduce maternal mortality to less than 70% per 100,000 live births by 2030 doesn't need any explanation. You read, you know, you get the understanding. Just know that it is part of the target of Goal 3, that by 2030, they want to reduce maternal mortality to less than 70 per 100,000. Straight statement. Any issues, class captain?
No, sir.
Any questions from the class? If not, that will be the end of our discussions on community pharmacy practice, SOPs, Ghana National Drug Policy, and a brief aspect on the Sustainable Development Goals. Any queries? Any announcement, class captain?
No, please.
Okay, so next week, same time, we will deal with the rational use of medicines, take the opportunity to discuss the Drug and Therapeutic Committee Essential Medicines List as part of the strategies that are put in place to curb irrational use of medicines. And that will be the end of our discussions. And maybe, if time permits, we look at some few past questions under the things that I've discussed with you. So far, the Public Health Act questions, some of them questions under essential medicines lists, community pharmacy practice, and the others. All right, class captain, so can we close if you don't have any questions?
Yes, please.
All right, so see you same time next week.
I agree to this one, sir.
So,
I drop it, sir.